As one who lived through the 1960s and early 70s, of the rise of the counterculture, and who was more than not a member of that counterculture, I have some thoughts to share about what's happened with the issue of marijuana in the United States. It emerged as a major issue between generations of middle class Americans in the at the time as the Vietnam War was becoming a major source of conflict in America. The children who were middle class and generally educated, who had opportunities, who were turning to the counterculture, um, had a reaction to the war. At the same time, they were, we were getting involved with a mind altering drug that was not the mind altering drug that the parents' generation, the people who are running the show, were using in their lives. It it was a it was not a very defensible position that the older generation took, that the nightly cocktail was somehow a legitimate part of a life well lived, but an evening joint was somehow on the other side of an important line, uh, important enough to justify using the powers of the state through the police force um, to punish people who could be caught utilizing marijuana in a society that was only interested in allowing alcohol as the way of changing one's consciousness with the use of an external substance. Now there are a lot of people who. Well, let me say first about why the this kind of society that America was at that time, that had gotten us into Vietnam, had among its faults that it was the kind of place where it was a kind of place where authority was given too much authority. It allowed for things like the nuclear testing program, which ended up hurting a lot of innocent people. Uh, it, it, there was a way in which the powers that be were given so much authority and who didn't look out for the public as well as it should. So that there was a need in some ways to correct for that, for the people who didn't tell us what we needed to know about nuclear stuff going on. And that failed to let people know about the effects of certain substances on causing cancer, and the nuclear testing to a variety of things that the, the authorities kept to themselves, including eventually the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States, knowing that that the war is unwinnable, yet protecting themselves at the cost of a lot of lives from having to admit it. So the Pentagon Papers was another thing about lies, and the the drug of the children, marijuana, was one that had the effects of having people seeing things in different and new ways, and in particular seeing things for themselves, because that's the one of the ways, the upsetting of habitual ways of thinking and seeing are part of what the impact on experience that that drug has. Alcohol is a very different kind of drug. Alcohol dissolves inhibitions and allows for a sense of release of something that uptight people have been are uncomfortable with the work of keeping suppressed, and so it is good to dissolve inhibitions to have a greater sense of freedom. I also would propose that alcohol is a drug that a conservative, top-down kind of way of looking at things would like, because the changes it makes are not revolutionary. When people become rowdy drunks, they're not threatening the established order. But marijuana doesn't really dissolve inhibitions. It shows things in new ways. And it led the generation of the children, it went hand in hand with seeing through the lies, seeing through the facades. You can hear it in the songs of the time about the Harper Valley PTA and various other things in which the younger generation was seeing the lack of something authentic at the center of their parents' lives. But their parents also had their virtues, and the children who chose to see things in new ways didn't always complete their homework. It's one thing to see the defects in one's parents' order. It's since that was an order that had been long built in America. It takes some real work to be able to create a society which is well ordered in enough ways. And I, as a member of the counterculture, I feel that our achievements are spotty at best. The fact that fascism has risen to such power as we see now in America tells me that basically we did not complete the work of making a legitimate force for the good out of the breakthroughs achieved by the counterculture. Too much confusion and dissipation took place, not enough putting things together to be the kind of force in the world that would have prevented something like the rise of Donald Trump from happening. But anyway, to go back to the use of drugs, the legalization of marijuana is part of a larger picture where the culture is rethinking in general what is a proper social approach by a society to the universe of substances that have been used, can be used to alter people's experience. This is through history and across cultures. Wilbur, be still. Through history and across cultures, societies have utilized substances to impact their experience. And this is very fundamental stuff. I say that it is an important point that nothing can matter unless it registers in the experiential realm. If there were no creatures for whom there resulted experiences that mattered whether it was this way or that way. Until anything matters to something, then nothing matters. It's only in whether creatures to whom things matter are having experiences that are better or worse that the question of value arises. So in view of the centrality of experience, that is where everything either gets realized, the richness, the goodness, the glad to be aliveness, whatever the thing is, it's there that things matter. And what about the question of how do you orchestrate your experience for the best possible results? And the results can be both in terms of whether we make the world better for that consciousness, and whether our own experience is as far as we can make it toward the glad to have it instead of the misery end of the stick. So that's what's at stake. And then there's the question, well, what role can substances, the whole range of them that can affect experience, how do they figure in a life that's led ideally? Well, there is a school of thought about drugs that says that it's a no-no. There are schools of meditation. You're not supposed to do any kind of mind-altering substance of any kind. The Mormons had a thing about some of this stuff, even caffeine. So it's one of the approaches to the thing. But I figure why if there's something better available to one as a life lived. If one makes wise use of the available ways of engineering one's full experience, why not? I mean, I fully acknowledge my ways of falling short of being, all I might wish to be ideally. If I can get closer to it with the help of anything, whether it be individual therapy, which I've done at earlier years of my life, or whether it be finding ways of using substances that change one's experience with basically beneficial impact, and that's a spiritual challenge. I think it's fair to say how to make best use, especially when you get to the things that can be harmful, like alcohol. Alcohol can ruin lives. It's abundantly clear. It's still not rare, even from what I hear. A lot of people have a problem with alcohol. It's not at all clear that humankind is better off with in a world that has alcohol than we would be if there were no such thing. I mean, it's been around for a long time, and we're not going to be without it. But we've tried prohibition, and that was a disaster. So the question then becomes, how does a society deal with that? Short of prohibition that doesn't work, to maximize the chance that it will be a plus in people's lives, that it will contribute to the experience of well-being overall in some way or other, and to minimize the chance that people will become addicted, will become alcoholic, will ruin their lives because of the role that alcohol plays in their lives. This happens, as everybody knows. Well, so it's got to do with probably individual differences. There's some people who probably should never touch it. I don't know. Gives me a headache. I don't have much of a relationship with alcohol myself, but I know where it can get you, and I wish that I could use it because there are times when one can have a wonderful time, uh, enhanced by the looseness that alcohol creates. Um, but there's always the question of whether we uh, use it well or not. We we're dealing with something sacred here because consciousness is where all the value lies, and uh, making the experience of life better um, is a big deal. It is realizing our potential in a way, even if it means making use of things that are of help, that we see more, or that we understand more, or we've had a spiritually transformative experience that opens our heart, like I had in 1983, that led to my writing the book on healing the wounds that drive us to war. There are experiences that enrich us, and sometimes they're like exceptional things that are life changing, and sometimes they're more ongoing things about the role that something plays in life that makes it a better life in some way. And I think, for example, in my relationship with coffee, um, I, I really cherished that when I'd wake up and the world would be kind of dull, and the tasks ahead would seem kind of burdensome to contemplate undertaking, and then I have a small bit of coffee, probably less than half a cup is what I do. Let's just say half a cup, and I drink that, and within 10 minutes or something like that, the dull world is getting brighter. I feel more enthusiastic about, just being a living human being at the moment. And the tasks that I've been intimidated by contemplating them in my early morning state, I'm now in a new state where I have this sort of let me at it feeling. And I think it's a good use of a substance. There may be some crash that comes 3 or 4 hours later. I know there's no such thing as a free lunch, but it played a uh, it has played a very positive role in getting me off to the day I want to be living. I feel pretty good about that. But I've been challenged also in terms of wise use. Um, that every day I want to do that, but if I do it every day, it loses some of the special qualities that it gave before. Maybe those could be had if I kept on adding more and more to the dose, which is the path of addiction I really didn't want to go down. I didn't want to just go from you know running pretty well on 40 milligrams of caffeine or whatever it is that I get. To needing what a lot of people get, 150 milligrams. I didn't want to go down that road, but at the same time, I didn't like losing some of the specialness. I found what works for me in the search for wise use, so that I can maintain the specialness, but not deny myself too much. One day out of four, I abstain from caffeine altogether. And then the next day, that special quality that I noticed that I was losing when I was doing it every day, it comes back and it stays a bit until the next day that and I'm not addicted, so I don't go through any kind of headache. It's more the ritual that I miss, and I can make decaf or something like that if I need it. So that's what I've come to on coffee. The problem I have is that the weakness of character. Um, lacking the strength of character to be able to deny myself one day out of four. It's gotten less frequently because, I just want the kick in the pants in the morning, even if it isn't got all the specialness. But I really do believe in doing the one day out of four. If I were, I guess I have to get a little bit stronger so I don't. So I'm happier to go without it one every 4 days. So that's how I deal with coffee. But there's really not a lot of danger with coffee, and if you make a list of all the things that are available to people these days in America, say from ecstasy to LSD to sometimes mescaline or psilocybin, opioids, and opiates in general. And there are some, like at least fentanyl. I think you'd have to be crazy to get involved with. Others, I don't know that I'm in a position to judge, but surely these are dangerous paths. Some of them, and methamphetamine has been a dangerous path. So there are things that people maybe simply should say, this is not worth it, or maybe it's got to do with just being disciplined enough. It's interesting to think about the various things that you find cross-culturally about the use of mind-altering substances, like the circles around I don't know how you say ayahuasca, this South American concoction. Um, there are groups, and then there are groups that consume peyote together, um, and there's all kinds of ritualization that forms around these substances. In fact, wherever we see that in the ancient world there were substances that altered people's consciousness, whether it was Dionysian wine or whether it was marijuana that apparently has been discovered in some ancient biblical temples. Embedded in some containers that were part of the religious world there. People have created rituals around these things, and I would interpret as society's attempt to provide a discipline and a path that constitutes wise use, because things that are sacred and things that are dangerous, and the two will tend to go together, um, will reward a society that's able to find a wise path where the benefits of what the drug has to provide um, are maximized, and the destructive impact that are potential among some of these things are minimized. So the ritual is a way of expressing a discipline, like but we also individually in a free society create our own choices, like how many drinks does one have, if any. I don't, as I said, but um, people have their own disciplines. I won't have this after such and such a time. When do you when do you stop drinking caffeine? So there are all kinds of disciplines that people can have, and people are making decisions. And if prohibition doesn't work, and if uh, some lives get seriously damaged or even ruined by the misuse of mind-altering drugs, how do we get as a society into the right posture for maximizing the chance that people will be able to find a wise path in their life about the role that some things may play in their lives. Now, I don't have any feeling about drugs are wrong. Making bad decisions is what's wrong. Decisions that have more costs and less benefits to themselves or to the world. That's what's wrong. But the idea, I can respect the idea that if you're afraid that you won't find a wise path, simply uh, saying no, like some religions do about don't touch anything. Um, that's an okay. It's kind of a minimax strategy, as economists would say. It reduces the harm. Uh, you can't go too far wrong. Well, I mean, maybe you can go too far wrong if you get lost in the slough of despond or something like that. But in general, a life without drugs probably will work. Life with drugs might work better, or it might get ruined. And if you aren't confident about which way you would go, um, I think prohibition on an individual basis makes sense, but it doesn't make sense on a social basis level because what the evidence is of both the prohibition on alcohol and the prohibition on marijuana is that what you do is you empower criminal cartels. Um, People want what they want, and they're willing to buy it from criminals if that's the only way they can get it because it's been criminalized. So it may be that some things really do need to have prohibition. I mean, I don't know what the laws are about fentanyl, but it seems like such a killer. It definitely it should not be an option available to every citizen to make their own choice. It just that's the way it looks. But I'm kind of ignorant on the fentanyl subject. But it just seems like it's just too deadly too often. But in general, I think that it is a healthy move that our society is making in the direction of recognizing that prohibition doesn't work, um, that where possible, we should let American citizens choose their own path in engineering the experience of their lives. And also take on the social job, I would say, of helping Americans as they grow up uh, to be equipped to make wise choices. And the just say no approach doesn't look to me like it's a very successful approach in terms of social sanity. I think we would do a lot better to recognize that when we're dealing with changing consciousness, we are dealing with the realm of the sacred because everything that matters lies in the realm of experience. And so we need to respect um, what that realm is, all the values that are placed in it, and to work to find the wisdom and the spiritual awareness to make good decisions about what kinds of efforts we make to get new kinds of experience, new kinds of new senses of fundamental truth, or new ways of perceiving the realities around us. Uh, or like with alcohol, to get more experience of what it feels like to let one's feelings flow and not be too restrained and inhibited to the point of discomfort, and to own a little bit more of oneself. All these things have ways of offering value as value registers in the experiential realm. And all these things require uh, probably there's probably a good number of of substances that we would call drugs that alter people's experience that can be used in a way that enhances uh, uh, the goodness of the experience in various ways. So I think that if we need to just say no because we're not capable of making wise decisions, well, that's one way of looking at us. I don't think that that's the case. I think that we have the capacity as human beings. I think we are born into the capacity to develop wisdom. Some of us are more impulsive than others. Some of us will be more disciplined than others. But people, I think, have the capacity to make decisions about what will best serve their lives if they are brought up to be able to exercise that kind of consciousness, that kind of discipline about which of one's impulses to yield to and which not. These are things I believe that people are capable of learning. It's just that we live in such a broken world that people grow up without that kind of thing necessarily having developed within them, and then they can get caught up making decisions that lead to their ruination. So um, it's all part of the larger task of making the human world more whole. Ideally, we would not have prohibition. Ideally, we would not have people ruining their lives. Ideally, we would have a world in which people grew up able to find the wise path forward and make good decisions about what use to make of what substances in engineering the experience that makes their lives as good in all the various ways as it can be. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.